Hello there. So, welcome to another episode of the LeetCode solving series. So, this episode is recommended by Mr. Gumbolt, and he asked about this problem like 771. Could you solve this, please? And as I saw, it has a tag of Google, Apple, and Adobe as the top three companies. So, let's just dive right into it. So you can read the description as always, but I'll just gonna, let you read it. If you pause it, you can read it, but I'll explain what this problem does based on the solutions. Not solutions, sorry, examples. Okay, so basically what it means is you are given two strings and J means it's jewels. So a, small a, and big A are jewels, and then there are like a bunch of stones in the ground or something, and then you have to find like how many jewels are in there. So as we can see, small a, big A, and another big A equals to 3 joules. That's why you have 3 as the answer. The one thing you have to notice is small a and big A are different than each other, so it is not case insensitive, let's say. So in this case, it is becoming more clear. If the jewel is like small z, then there is nothing in here. So we should be returning 0 because there's no jewels in the stone. So let's just dive into the solution. Okay, so brute force approach is pretty simple. Basically, what you want to do is check each stone if it's a jewel, right? So just go through one by one and then check whether this is equal to the joules. So let's say this is the first one, and then I'll be setting it equal to A, and then, okay, if it's a joule, then just say +1, and then go to the next one here, and then corresponding to small a, so it's not a joule, and then go to the next one. Oh, okay, it's a joule, so +1. Just like that, and then you just go one by one from the stone and also go one by one from the joules. You're basically doing like two inner loops, let's say, and then checking if it's a joule or not. Pretty simple approach. Let's assume that the average number of joules is m and average number of stones is s. So let's talk about the time complexity of this problem. So it would be n times m because we're doing loops inside loop, right? Okay, and then the space complexity would be O of 1 because we didn't declare any new variables except other than the counter, but that doesn't count as, O of m or n space complexity. Okay, so the brute force solution is pretty simple. Let's jump into the optimal one, right? We can do even better than this. So the trick here is to pre-process this information right here. What I mean by that, right? So when we were checking each stone one at a time, right, the amount of loops that we were doing is like, let's say n times, but there is a way to check if this string is just a joule by O of 1 time. So that is where a hash set comes in. Basically, before the problem even begins, you just have to pre-process this information saying, okay, let's just put these joules in a hash set like that, and then let's go through the loop and then check if this stone is a joule or not. So this process, checking if it's a joule, is like one process. And then each time whenever you're going through a stone, you just check if it's a joule, just one time. So that's the idea. In this problem, the time complexity can be a little bit tricky, but it's not that bad. So to pre-process this information, you're doing m time, right? And then the S would be doing the loop n time. So basically, you have to add these numbers up. So it would be like O of n plus n. But in reality, you just say, okay, it's the maximum of m or n, like that. If the other one is bigger than that, then the smaller one doesn't really matter. So that's why we like to say it's max. Or, I mean, you can say that, but, max is just fine. Okay, so time complexity is that. Let's talk about the space complexity, right? So space complexity is just the pre-processing data, which is the set, and the size of that set can be just O of m. So that's the space complexity. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the solution. So as always, let's start with the brute force solution force first. brute force. Okay, so the brute force was to iterate through the stone one at a time and then check if that is a dual one at a time, right? So for S in S, stone, and J in J. So we're checking each stone with each dual. So if S is equal to J, then that means it's a dual, right? So we have to have like a counter of some sort and then increase the counter one if it is a dual. Okay, let's just try that. Pretty simple solution. Okay, that works. And try to submit it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it is working success, right? But it's pretty slow, as you can imagine. Okay, that's the brute force approach. Let's talk about the hash set approach. So the hash set approach is we have to pre-process the data. We have to pre-process the jewels, right? So let's declare a variable which is a set, and then pre-process the information for j in j, big J. So jewels dot add j, right? So okay, with that out of the way, everything is in the jewels variable right now. So after that, we just have to go through the stones one at a time, then check if this stone is in the set. So if it's in the jewels, then we increase the counter, but we haven't declared that yet. So let's just declare that here. So like that. So if it's in the jewels, increase the counter and then return the counter, right? Let's just run this and see if there's any mistake. Okay, that's good. Let's submit it, and it is working. So it is faster than before, right? As expected. Um, this line makes a lot of sense, but in Python, you can even do more clever stuff than this. What you can do is basically make this a set like J. So J is a string. What it does is, make every character of that string into the set. So that's kind of like a shortcut in Python. So you can make this, and then it still works, right? Okay, that's about it. And let's peek at the official solution quickly, and we can check if this is like so the Java solution is pretty similar, just doing two loops inside and then checking if the answer, if the count, if the jewel is in the stone and then increase the counter and return the counter, right? Pretty similar. But in Python, we have some BS like this. So in the previous video, I mentioned and talked about this, right? So there is no reason you cannot write this stuff. Don't try to be clever with the interviewer. Just write this code instead of this thing. I don't even understand this what is going on in here. So it is better to go with this solution rather than that. And every interviewer will not be experts in Python like this. So just do the right approach. Also in here, right, the same thing, just doing it like in two lines. Try not to be clever than the interviewer. So this approach is kind of bad. And as you can see, the Java approach is much more clear, right? So just try to solve everything like you are solving like in Java. That's my advice for you. Okay, that's pretty much it. And if you have any suggestions, comments, leave it down below, and I will read them, everything. So take care and see you in the next episode.